my experience right now from like what Kirito might be like referring to system stupidity. Like I'm whispering that I'm whispering might be that all the incidents when like the past where like Kirito had might have failed to like realize Kirito's like true potential, and that failure to like realize it on time, resulting in like the suffering of like people extremely precious to like Kirito in the person event the rest of like things going to the extreme extent of like even the rest of like Charlotte as well as like Stardust as well as Eugeo will be around the line kept everything in because like in the person like the relevance of like this point would be that basically currently since like while Crypto had taken several things in life like during that point like Crypto had like three Sword Art Online costumes of like Crypto transformation like I'm looking like at that point like I'm even Crypto might have been able to like sense that but like might have still failed to like have that proper awareness to that Crypto possibly being able to like Crypto being able to like access like possibly being able to like access that actual powers of Kirito from way back from like the Sword Art Online game. So they due to like all that memories of Kirito being certain in like Kirito's mind. And so like so like since it's like a like with like kind of like a game. So like the virtual world of the world like like so like the memories like Kirito might be able to like access uh, might be having like might have spent that time might have had like access to like the powers of like crypto from the way back from like the Sword Art Online game where crypto played like the Sword Art Online game which like crypto might have paid to like realize this in that time and even after like taking Philippines life while crypto that desperate need to like bring down Philippines might have was that like forcefully might have caused that good for like crypto might have represented like crypto temporarily being able to like access that Sword Art Online powers. Yet like it since like after like taking Philippines life since like it was like the fight was the next fight was like against like the ultimate boss of like Quinela like and like solely due to that reason like like the seriousness of like situation might have resulted in that it was focused totally shifting from like the fact that it was like actually like it was products online powers to like basically to solely the focus of case reporting on Quinela and that big it might have ended up not being unaware of like the being able to access like the solar online routes and then the brain. So like it might have been after like usual after like Charlotte as well as like having as well as like right now after like user stuff and like the might have and after like Alice had like try to like protect Kirito from it might be only at that point that Kirito might have that it might have reflect and for like Kirito and Kirito might have only became aware of like the fact that like he this entire time in the virtual world of the world he had like access to like Sword Art Online power like which like solely is like him failing to like realize that he had to like struggle just like entire time and had to like take all this loss of like things like persistence and all that you know frame especially it's like awakening kind of like an awareness your awareness might have right now happens to that to the door. Especially my experience. So like right now but like it's still only fighting off against like doing that using that of like solar online powers but but again like even those sword in like the virtual world from the world like Kirito's sword up until now like basically exactly like how Kirito's like outfit right now has changed into that the gift of outfit, I think that from that soda from engine, like everything, the gift of soda as well might have had that transformation and changing into that the soul of that gift of from soda from and it's also like a possible that I'm different. So definitely I'm different right now with like doing the using one of like I'm different definitely like definitely the fight between like doing the fight between like doing the intelligence definitely something like so initially struggling get like I'm getting good only for doing that like this another that I'm get like I'm kids so not since they are injured doing that or like the scenario that I'm doing instead like I'm doing like the scenario really like it totally that four fights between like doing the and kids so where like I'm doing it even just the and it will just be so fight because of like as in that lives in front of like anything like Linda won't be able to like use any take on that spell to like it's like looking out of that so like I'm gonna like so be like mainly purely support fight between like Kirito and Quinela and then when like in that eventually like I'm going to like that short fight like Kirito only offer Quinela and then like without causing much injuries at all to that Quinela Kirito was scoring Quinela by putting to that with that final force fight of Kirito like Kirito destroying Quinela's like silver opportunity. I think that kind of like so like Quinela's ultimate goal like a moving that Kirito or correct that so like a moving that with that soda calling powers of Kirito coupled with like the priority logic, maybe like that would be getting added up with like the with that determination of crypto, with like crypto losing a lot of things like process to like crypto and within like that bring about that it's being determined within like and declared within like crypto to win and between that might result in like the coupling and the adding up of like the solar domain power of like crypto with like the extreme increase in like crypto like priority into of that sequence so as well. That basically that way or also putting in that Gito barely surpassing like the priority of that Suna and Cup sword. And basically that way like Gito sword like totally staggering Suna sword like the scenario that I was in. And at that point, like, and I'm putting like, in like doing the situation, like I'm doing that, the fight between like doing the and Gito right now will be that totally sword fight alone. And I'm definitely trying to learn not being able to like absorb that long like the scenario that I was doing because like I'm looking like in order for like doing that to perform like that like to like absorb that long term like I'm looking like to do to need like a certain extent of like time would be required for like to properly perform that set of spell for like that way for like doing like to do it for like absorb that have and lost down with like what might be like that specific situation right now. But remember the so like especially using like I'm like that would be able to only fight with single half and so against like this without being able to like use any like secular spell against like the scenario that I'm given. So like that way like I'm like once like crypto usually like accompaniment of opportunities that are given up like so like a different at that point like to end up with you in that kind of like a dedicated kind of like a situation. But like I'm going to be at that point that I'm like crypto into getting that absolute stuff with like I'm looking like maybe like the flying minion most likely from like strong like the walls of like that top floor of like in the floor of like that building and basically that flying minion from like the Rasta tree entering hopefully making that consideration of like an entrance into that home and basically going up from like the flying side of like Alice and basically quickly like attacking Alice and flying away with like the scenario that I'm looking and at that point like I'm looking like at that point it's like the audience will be showing up it's like two platforms like the scenario that I'm looking and at that point I was like give the bit only shock and shouting at but like Alice will be that getting abducted away by like playing in that scenario that I'm looking and at that point that the battle theater uh doing that point would be laughing up like and villains get kind of laugh at that Kirito and basically like regardless and doing them was maybe saying things along battles along the line but like regardless of Kirito defeating Fiona basically because like Fiona at that point would be seriously getting her ego front and like Fiona would be extremely frustrated about that so like I'm looking at Fiona at that point will taking out her frustration by that at that point like making fun of like Kirito in a villainous manner like I'm looking like doing at that point telling Kirito that basically even though Kirito managed to like defeat like doing that still that crypto has lost everything that even not only like Eugeo as well as like Cardinal as well as like Charlotte like but like crypto has right now also lost like the only person that crypto had like remaining that had as well right now with their own line like putting like when now would be now to have billions with that like crypto that point of like the scenario that I'm doing and that will let it go be like solely worried for like Alice and at that point, when I was running most likely, but Polly would be like, totally entering that just like the scenario that I'm thinking in. At that point, like I'm doing like, but Polly would be totally straight away first noticing that user like basically in that straight away, but Polly would be like asking it to us to that straight away first thing that the Polly would be that nothing would be that user like basically that and lying on the floor, like scenario that I'm looking for. Like that will be like a shock from like somebody. And I'm looking like in the case of Bakoli, Basori might not know whom Cardinal is. So also like a remote possibility that I'm looking at. But going like I'm looking Bakoli straight away asking Chitters to actually go and I'm going to consider straight away telling Bakoli that like I've been other while like flying in from like the other people. Like at that point, like that would be like a huge shock for like the story. Definitely, Bakoli would be having like a great bond towards like Alice. Like I'm saying, Bakoli would be like definitely will be like seeing himself as like a father figure to like Alice within that time is definitely going to be famous. So definitely but not even be like seriously worried for like Alice and everything like straight away. But body would be like once again having to like focus on like Eugeo who's like would be like lying that in the boat. So like I'm talking about body straight away. Like using his like secret perfect control after like his like time manipulation power like I'm talking about the power of like the time manipulation that Cody would be having this like but Cody would have definitely not got revealed to that Eugeo in like but Cody fight against Eugeo like but Cody bring out that power like but Cody to that basically like places like target on Eugeo and they will use that time road time reversal power of like the Cody which like the Cody would be having this like scenario that I'm using like I'm using the Cody reversing back the time of like Eugeo to that the time where like Eugeo was alive before Eugeo had basically transformed into that sword like unfortunately like until that point like I'm using the police appearing in that basically managing to like reverse the time of like literally Eugeo alone like the scenario that I'm using that way like Eugeo being brought back to life and that being like the biggest shock for like Kirito like the scenario that I'm doing so that and then like I'm going Chief quickly asking telling Bakoli to that to please also save Cardinal as well as Harvard. So like I'm at that point like I'm going to name Bakoli with telling Kid so that quickly with like the reversal of time and saving of like user itself like I'm going like that limit there will be a limit to like how much like Bakoli will be able to like reverse for a while. It's like there will be there and like there will be the time limit as well as like Bakoli won't be able to like reverse back time in that in a consecutive manner as well as also the female difference. But like that limit might be that probably pulled after like saving ego. But the police like the scenario that I'm looking so like the police at that point telling Victor that his like his powers he won't be able to like use his powers to like basically save Cardinal and like Charlotte is like the scenario that I'm looking right. So that basically so like at that point like Victor probably deciding to that basically that head off and the moment that Kirito would be like thrown back and say and at that point since Eugeo would be like totally looking around and finding hands totally missing and Eugeo would be totally worried and Eugeo straight away asking to Turk to like the Alice again to Turk to telling Eugeo be like how Alice would have got abducted by like the flying million so like I'm looking at that point like I'm looking at totally Kirito and Eugeo and Barcody at that point totally and at that point I'm looking like Eugeo most likely seeing that so badly defeated doing that I'm looking at that point like Eugeo telling Kirito to like basically to eliminate doing that and also maybe like Eugeo will be like extremely enraged like first of all I'm looking at the moment Eugeo will be finding out that basically Alice would have gotten abducted and taken away by like flying messages like at that point like itself like I'm looking like Eugeo will be totally worried and like said worried will be uh, whilst you don't be worried and then you don't be noticing Quinela in like a defeated kind of like a state like and that's when like that worry you don't be turning into like that absolute racing towards like Quinela and at that point I'm also like Eugeo would be also like I'm just like Eugeo and I'm just like as like Buffoli would be like saving Eugeo at that point I'm just like Eugeo's like blow sword as well would be returning back into its like normal proper state but it's like the scenario that I'm doing. So like at that point like I'm looking at like scenario to be like an extremely enraged Eugeo like picking up like the blow sword and walking towards like Quinla but that up to a race to like eliminate Quinla's like the scenario that I'm doing. But like I'm looking at that point it would be like Kirito that will be stopping Eugeo like the scenario that I'm looking over there. And Kirito telling Eugeo to like cool down. And basically, Kirito telling Eugeo, Kirito at that point maybe will be getting like lost confident and basically Kirito will be telling Eugeo that basically that Kirito has like thoroughly defeated Queen and that Eugeo at that point will be noticing that Queen sword as well get doing like a shadow like so like after like um Kirito telling calming Eugeo down and basically Kirito telling Eugeo that right now like doing the stuff really good and right now the biggest priority should be like saving Alice so that that way like Kirito convincing Eugeo as well as Buckley to like basically and secondly Buckley then would be like totally focused on like would be that fully work for us so like everything with them all straight away deciding to that basically head off to like the doctor place to say that it's like the scenario that I'm going to so like straight away from like that very top of like the sensitive everything and everything like Buckley maybe like whistling out to the snap dragon so like I'm going to definitely dragon totally flying and all the way up to like the very top I think it's like the scenario that I'm because like of like the flying minion even flying even beyond like the limit set for like the center of the Olympics and that will literally be like doing that constituted with that as part of like the team to the might have set was like the queen of like the task okay which would be definitely like the human would be like the whole of like the task okay which would be Alice's mother as the new member there while like the dark night that which like Alice has seen the child Alice had seen while and had resulted in like Alice like totally zoning out and stepping to that the darker way for the first time and breaking the tattoo index like this with back then. I'm believing that that Dark Knight might not actually who have extended like his arms towards like Alice like might not actually be Alice's father while like the queen of like the Dark Tree will be like the ruler of like the Dark Tree and the queen of the Dark Tree would be not only Alice's mother but she would be also like far superior stronger than like Alice's father as well especially when queen because this would be like that person that like the Quinela would be very fully aware of that the queen of like the dark affairs to that. And the basically you know direction that like the queen like the current queen all of the dark affairs might have been childhood friends of like the vitals of like Quinela back back in the December, especially my perspective. So like yeah, that current queen of like the dark race would be like and mother like might have left off to like the dark race back in like the recent past. See that's the role of like the dark race. So like that when queen that and like that ruler of like the dark race like that when they both might have been like in like they both might have fought up against each other and might have challenged each other at like right and back then like I'm from like the queen of like the dark race might have it might have been tough that might have been always like or probably in that and defeating to that certainly was the goal. So like I'm seeking bigger challenge like essentially might have left off to like the after three to like role or like the last three might have been what might have happened in like the distant but certainly when it's playing. That way I'm just getting the impression that like but probably from like the top of like the conductor they were like whistling out to this like calling out this dragon and then the dragon straight away flying all the way up to like the very top floor of the different land especially like the body like Kirito and Eugeo like getting on top of like the dragon and basically then suddenly flying and all the way to the flying and going all the way to like the dark way to like if that escape go to like save and like saving scenarios that I'm just with free and not with free. But you also might have the impression that eventually by the time that Kirito the group of like Kirito Yugo and Buckley would be like finally saving Alice like and I'm maybe also putting like a remote possibility of like Buckley by like Kirito Yugo and the team of the Kirito Yugo and Buckley will be like progressing through the last field until at some point that I think that Buckley would need to be ending up dying from the sense like by like one of like the last three. So it's like I'm looking at totally or pouring and maybe even taking the life of Buckley. It's like one possible scenario that I'm doing. Or like I'm looking at Buckley totally into at some point of like the last three Buckley sacrificing life to like it's going to go. So also like a possibility that I'm looking so like that's also like a possibility that I'm looking. But like I'm looking by the time like eventually kids and will be like saving rescuing and saving Alice like and would be like deciding to like run back to like the industry like I'm looking like by then like I'm looking at the scenario that I was looking for like even that by then would have totally fully recovered and might have even brought back some loss as well as like by then like Twin Dam would be like that lost ego of like Twin Dam and like basically that abuse frustration but that abuse frustration I'm preparing like Twin Dam only creating that recreating like a whole entire new set of like a huge army of like sword column of like even superiorly stronger sword column than like the ones that like Eugeo and Kirito and all of them have fought like everything like sword columns that are even far superiorly stronger than that sword column like absolutely and an entire army of sword columns like I'm in the creating by them like the scenario that I'm doing and with that entire army of like sword column and like in the by then by the time Christian Eugeo would be like King and saying and like Jinda and all of them would be like totally by Jinda and like then the army of like Zone would be like totally launching that attack on like the dark country to that maybe even take over like the entire capital of the dark country and maybe with that goal like it Jinda maybe setting up such a new goal and that with that like I'm doing that like it would be like during that time like an attack from like the Hind country by like Quinela and Quinela huge army of like so all towards like the Rasta will be happening. This is like the scenarios that I'm looking at. According to the prevention, that's like one possibility that I'm looking at. The other possibility that I'm looking at for like by the time that you join you go would be that find your team and from like the Rasta by then like I'm looking at maybe Kayaba most likely entering into like the Western world of Anapon as like in like the using like the super account of like Goddess Stapia and then looking like Kayaba that way appearing into like the human story as like Goddess Stapia and then look like Kayaba like using his like the super since it's like a super account it could be having like all sorts of like Shukira by default itself like that account itself like will be having like all sorts of like that super account of Goddess Stapia will be having like all sorts of like Shukira power then compared to like the routes of June that's definitely my limit. So like I'm doing like Cyber straight away entering into like the mental frame and basically like straight away that will be going up in front of like Quinela and I'm just doing like at that point I'm just like Quinela totally uh that that basically I'm looking like at that point maybe like a fight between like Quinela and like Kaiba as like or stage maybe happening where like I'm putting like Quinla, the last thing Quinla would be wanting would be to like get thrown over by Borussia, like the possibility that I'm putting so like a fight between like Quinla and Borussia happening where like I'm putting Kaiba with like the super account powers of like Borussia like easily offering and defeating Quinla. And I'm putting like maybe I'm putting like Kaiba totally with like the unique powers of like the Borussia, I'm putting like Kaiba totally maybe even controlling taking control of that Quinla. So it's like also like a possibility that I'm looking at. So like I'm thinking that maybe like Kaiba controlling Quinla's mind and basically like Kaiba may using like Quinla to like totally create like a huge army like so superior and stronger soldiers than that way like I'm thinking by Kaiba by using like a control Quinla like and getting like and like an entire huge army of like soldiers like going to that attack on like the laptop and I'm looking like the like one fake even showing up like I'm looking like it couldn't just be like the phone call like I'm looking maybe Kaiba even telling like the entirety of the human like the interface of the state way believing that like would be like totally looking up towards like Boss State and then was looking like Boss State Kaiba as like Boss State and totally commanding like and ordering like the entire humans to like basically to wage war against like the dark race to bring down the dark race and take over sometimes take off like the dark so that when I come in maybe like uh along with like God like I'm looking like doing that as well as like an entire huge army of like of like sword bombs as well as like and then that if the humans in like the human of basically or like the majority of the humans in like the human of all like basically launching their ultimate attack against like the lack of it by then it's like things possible other possible scenarios that I was bringing in the range. New redemption right now for like the entire knowing source it's good to have the source to like we go like I'm looking that would be most likely through like exactly like how Cardinal has played that but spider but like Charlotte like I'm looking like twin as well even way back might have like sent off like another uh but with the name of the train but so like I'm looking like this but looking will be like even more uh more advanced than like the spider but Charlotte is the name of the rose so like this but might also have like the ability to like hide its presence and like the ability of like camouflage as well. So like I'm looking this entire time like maybe it wouldn't just be like an whole out like Kirito's journey, like the majority of the Kirito's journey, like towards the world of control, might have not just been like Charlotte alone, like Tiny Spider Charlotte alone, that might have been accompanying Kirito by staying at like in like Kirito's here, but like a friend that might have been also another but the entire time hiding in like the very same share of like Kirito itself. But with like way better like camouflage and like hiding of its like presence that even not even Charlotte might have been aware of that other bug, which might have totally been like the bug that might have been working for like doing that step never different. So like that might have been in that crypto sphere the entire time so like I'm like that would be that how Quinela knows of like sword skills, secret sword skills of Kirito, which like Kirito have given revealed to like Eugeo. Is definitely my personal impression. But new impression right now is like Eugeo still being alive and trying to like help Kirito out. Like I'm looking for like how Eugeo defends Kirito right now. I'm looking and that really through Eugeo right now itself. I'm considering Eugeo would be one side actually died right now. It's like the scenario where I'm doing and still like how that would be happening. I'm looking like Eugeo will be like giving up the very final last bit of like strength within like Eugeo, strength and power within Eugeo into like basically into directing that power towards like Eugeo's like floor or sword and that way like Eugeo totally like fixing up like using that power of Eugeo like I'm looking that final bit of power of Eugeo like I'm looking at Eugeo would be like fixing up like the broken floor of sword of like Eugeo for Kirito to fight out with those both swords that is Kirito's like since like Kirito has this like dual wielding skill from like Sora Online. So like I'm going like even though you do without realizing this would be like trying to like help Kirito out. Like I'm going that eventually to have like Kirito fights with like both Kirito Sword as well as with like Bloro Sword. Like you don't think that Kirito is standing a better chance against like Quinela. Against in like bring down Quinela. But like I'm thinking it would be like seriously given that extreme gain in like fight performance of like Kirito against like less especially because like Kirito after like that way getting that global soda Kirito bringing out like that Kirito's ultimate like dual building sword skill from like all the way back from like Soda Online, which would be like something even if like in like which I'm also bringing more most likely for that scenario that I'm bringing for that ultimate dual building style of Kirito would be definitely a skill that like Quinla won't be aware of. It's definitely not a even while like Quinla would be knowing all the skills that Kirito had trained in secret without even revealing to like Kirito within like the virtual world, but was still like since like that entire time Kirito had only a single sword, like I'm definitely doing that would be only knowing things like within like the virtual world of other worlds definitely not the while doing that have all knowledge like it would still be contained as for like the knowledge from within like the human way alone of like the knowledge of for like things happening, also things happening within like the human play alone of like the virtual world. Otherwise, definitely there will be that limitation to like when that knowledge is definitely never created. So like I'm looking things like Kirito might have never used since like Kirito I think that has never used the like dual building solar on its skills in his like entire journey so far in like the virtual world from the whole I'm looking like Kirito that point like totally accessing that through Kirito's memories like Kirito probably accessing like with like Kirito product that like Kirito like accessing like that dual wielding sword art online skill and using that like I'm doing like Quinla won't be knowing what to like how to counter against that skill dual wielding skill attack of that Kirito's like scenario that I wanted to Quinla would have absolutely no idea at all as to like what that dual wielding skill is like how it's like powers of like it's like movements and everything it's definitely remembering. So like absolutely having absolutely no idea and everything to get through that way through like user self and I remember the moment like the scenario to be like that way user fixing up like the floor of soul to like the last bit of energy and power of like user. And at that point, self like I'm looking to ending up actually dying to like the scenario where I'm doing. So like I'm looking at that skill building skill of like Kirito using by building both Kirito sort of full of like the floor sort of like user. Kirito totally or in defeated to in that scenario that I'm looking at. Like I'm looking at not taking to in left life, but like I'm looking at Kirito totally offering and defeating to in and also like with that final attack of the dual wielding skill of that Kirito or looking at Kirito totally breaking to in left soul. To in left like alternate soul getting broken and shattered by Kirito's like dual wielding alternate state like during the scenario. That would be how like doing that right now. The rest of them will be like decision like it. So it's like in the scenario that I'm remembering and sitting on the attention. So the cinema preemption that I'm sitting on this that basically feel like then calling Kirito and an uninvited intruder like I'm definitely would be like from Quinda's mindset like what like Quinda would you see Kirito as like it's like uninvited intruder from like the darker state to like the healing country would be along the line like according to like the orders of like most likely like to end up that childhood rival who might be like the current queen of like the ruler of like the dark country which should be like actual not the new framework so it would be like Quinla would be right now calculating that like it would be according to that that ruler queen of like the dark side will be according to like some orders to like basically to like trick and like to take out queen like to that way for like the queen ruler of like the dark side to also take over like and ruler like the human as well. To give the reason for like Kirito right now showing up to like basically take out Quinela and fighting Quinela would be along the lines. Maybe Quinela would be thinking that my birthday emergency. So like I'm doing regardless of everything Kirito had said to like Quinela about like the range of English, like the human touch and everything. Like I'm looking right now, like the person, like I'm looking like I'm looking maybe like Twin Lab might have definitely not at all believe that. Like from Twin Lab's point of view, like Twin Lab might have been probably think that this will be all this side of that like Crypto's like a fight from like the dark tree to like trick everyone and basically to trick Quinla and to like basically to like or for and defeat and take out Quinla and to like that way for like the clean up like the dark queen to like also roll over like the human country as well. It's like my personal reaction. So like this will be what like Quinla will be like firmly believing regardless of everything that Tito will be telling to that Tito had already told to that Quinla and everything. It's definitely my personal impression. But right. Definitely was very sure that something on to where basically that even when Quinla I think had already used like the words flux light like still Quinla would be having like absolutely no idea at all. Quinla would only see like since like Quinla has I think still like all sorts of knowledge um, within like the boundaries of like the human we would be like the situation with like Quinla. I'm considering definitely so like I'm considering like definitely like the word flux light might be like when even knowing like the word flux light might be through such a manner of putting the pressure. Other than that, like I'm thinking like you know between like every existing beings within like the virtual world of like underworld have like flux light would be around like screen I would be seeing and like screen I would see having like absolutely no idea at all. As for like what a human flux light just like I'm thinking like screen I would be like see every living being in the virtual world of underworld as like flux light might be like the case of the human pyramid. So like the what an artificial flux light is or like the difference between like an artificial flux light and a human flux light and the existence of like the real human world outside like the virtual world of underworld like from which like crypto has entered into like the virtual world underworld like basically about all the like the existence of like the human world actual human world outside like the virtual world of underworld about all this like doing that would be having absolutely no idea at all or it's the phenomenon of the race. So like from that point of view that everyone would be like everyone in like the human would be like human flux like definitely memory and even in like the dark like the humans that might totally fundamental creation that might only exist within like the brain, especially because of like the dark night within like the dark and all of them would be definitely human it's definitely well trained to support definitely like all of them like I'm looking like from that point of view like now we seeing all of them as well as like then that effect humans like the human subject as like human flux like by from that point of view to now would be like seeing like the orcs and goblins and like the flying minions from like the Darkrai or as like monster flux like specifically when it's a temperature so that basically Quinla definitely because we're totally unaware of like the fact that like Quinla is not an actual human that like even like the entire physical virtual world of us world is like actually not real. And basically about like the existence of like the real human world outside like the virtual world of outside the boundaries of the virtual world of the world. Like the existence of all this like Quinla would be totally unaware of the need of them. That's definitely my definitely I'm touching right now for like if the eyes lighting up and turning kind of like gold. This would be like that would be like how that whenever like from this point on this and whenever the thing that was the word upon the world whenever Kirito activates it's that dual wielding skills from like Sword Art Online. Each and every single time he does that like I'm really like each of those time like if those eyes would be like changing its color in that the current similar manner. It's definitely that would be how it works the dual building skill of your conduct product online work within like the boundaries of like the virtual world of underworld it's just leaving a big frame system right. Like the framework frame system right now is for like Eugeo instead of fixing his like the floor of sword and giving to like Kirito like Eugeo turning his sword into like a different sword like that would be totally due to like maybe Eugeo thinking along the lines of like basically it's like while fighting against like when the Eugeo like blow of sword had like failed and like according to like everything like Eugeo yeah, at that point it went only thing that like just fixing like blow up just like using Eugeo's strength alone to like just pick like Eugeo like Loro sword and to give it to Kirito simply won't be uh, enough for like the Loro sword for like the Eugeo sword as like the Loro sword form to be able to like bring down Quinela because of like Quinela being so successful and because of like the Loro sword having failed against like Quinela and because of that might be the reason for like Eugeo possibly having came to like the conclusion that will be in order for like the sword to be that strong enough to be able to like bring down Quinela like it would just be like Eugeo remain strength alone that would be like enough but like Kirito's strength as well would be like to combine both of their strength would be like absolutely necessary to like create to transform like the Blue sword into like an ultimate sword, which would be powerful enough to like basically do enough damage and be able to like bring down doing that combining while combining that sword with like Kirito's like superior sheer will and determination. Maybe I'm gonna like user might have felt especially when the correct. So like I mean this might be the reason for like user like turning and like basically like holding on to like get those arms as well, ensuring to like hold on to like get those arms as well, and basically it will be like a conscious like decision by you to like openly transform this like the that way into like a more superior form. So it's definitely my favorite. Even though Yujo might have definitely had that like sheep bond and like person might have only felt that serious bond and person connection to it like those also still I'm like Yujo definitely like might have seen like bringing down of like doing that like the ultimate priority and basically as like that thing that's of like the most important and so like I'm looking like you might have like willfully decided to like transform it like floor also to which ultimate floor so that like it will be able to like bring down in that is definitely my at the first step like you just like might have been what might have happened especially when the president so like I'm thinking, regardless of like the current fight between like crypto and uh, doing that with like Kirito's like dual wielding attack against like Quinela. But definitely, literally, Kirito was only repeating Quinela's like scenario that I'm doing. And definitely, I'm still thinking about the impression that like maybe Barcoli showing up at that point, that would be once like if Kirito really fitting Quinela, that would be like saving like Kirito's like literally Barcoli that will be saving Kirito's life. And at that point, I'm looking definitely Kirito giving back that transformed like fluorosol like which is like currently in red color and all that. Like I'm looking like that transforms so like I'm looking like and just definitely at that point would be like giving back to like ego. It's like the scenario that I'm going. So like that way like at that point like ego would be having that a sword, even though ego at that point would be like I would have lost his like fluorosol, like he would still be having like even though different like he will still be having like a sword that will be like far superiorly stronger than like the fluorosol which will be that so it's definitely my so definitely I'm looking like Udo will be like surviving and like Purple will be able to do and at that point will stick to giving that like second right so that should like visuals like to scenario that I'm looking at right now. So like on my impression on the point definitely eventually like Alice getting abducted and taken to like the darker way by a flying minion and one like get to any Udo and Purple most likely would be like proceeding through that darker way but like eventually Kirito would be like getting his hands on like another new sword with like the scenario that I'm in. Definitely I'm looking in that way. In order to like definitely I'm looking eventually ending up being that ultimate fight between like Kirito and like that soul of like the that really should be like the dream of the other thing. I'm definitely praying out for like Kirito to save and free Alice like I'm looking at Kirito totally facing off against that dark thing. And I was wondering, like in that fight, definitely by then, like it would have seized, like might have like got himself like another second soul, like the scenario that and so like I'm wondering if he with that in that fight against like the Queen of the Glass, the kid would be like one again fighting with this like ultimate dual wielding style with like another brand new sword. That's just like second soul, it's like still in the scenario that I was going on with them. Level prevention right now is that the defense like doing that like fighting at like a disadvantage against like his out of like only a single arm like I'm looking definitely for like in like the fields of like I'm considering definitely there being like a rebalance between like Kirito and like doing that in which like I'm looking that it would be like more like a fair fight where like I'm looking like both doing that would be not like having both of the arms but like I'm looking like doing that would be like having two swords exactly like Kitsul right now like I'm in that way that I'm looking like to end up like fighting with like two swords. So like I'm looking like both of them will be fighting with like in a dual wielding fighting manner, like because it's another that I'm right. So like I'm saying, since that rebattle between like Quinela and Kirito happening in like the computer and they are like I'm sort of like either it would be like Quinela by herself that it would be Quinela herself that would be fighting off against like Kirito, or like I'm sort of like it would be Quinela who would be like who would be like controlled by like the god of Stasia, who would be like who would be like controlling Quinela, that would be like the Quinela that would be like fighting off against like Kirito. That rebattle like it's like this would be like one of these two possibilities definitely like the possibility that I'm looking I'm not maybe inspiration right now with like Quinela losing both of her arms by Kirito losing one of his arms. Like I'm still looking like Kirito won't be like taking the like Quinela like scenario that I'm looking. Definitely I'm looking like with like the very next so right of like Kirito like I'm looking like Kirito uh causing like a certain extent of like a serious level of injuries to like in like the scenario that I'm looking. Yet like I'm looking at Kirito would be like striking that final stroke strike with like such absolute precision that way to like basically where like Kirito would be like only while performing that sort of strike would be like also by trying to like ensure that basically like that sort of strike doesn't take to end up like the scenario that I'm doing. So like I'm doing that way like doing being badly injured and being unable to like move. Yet like I'm feeling like Kirito would be like not taking Quinla like the scenario that I'm like. So like that way like I'm feeling like Quinla having her huge ego getting shattered and like basically Quinla totally lying on the floor and unable to like move while having to like basically live with that absolute uh current reality of like her absolute defeat against like Kirito and basically on top of that like definitely in like ending up in like a situation where like she would be like needing like the help of like another person for her to even be able to like return back to her even if like Quinla wants to like return back to her former even if like Quinla desires to like return would be like only returning back desiring to like return back to like her former glory yet like I'm really even at that point like Quinla with like that situation which like I'm looking get totally like leaving Quinla and where like Quinla will be totally unable to like move at all and will be badly where like Quinla would be forced to like basically to like at least at that point for her to like only let go of her ego and basically to seek the help of like another person for like Quinlan to uh, be able to like recover. It was definitely Michael's reaction, and that exactly happening. And like the scenario that I'm doing, where like Quinlan would be totally like Quinlan begging for like mercy and basically Quinlan that way like someone from like the center cover like helping and rating Quinlan just like the scenario that I'm going to say. And like slowly I'm going to over time like Quinlan while Kirito and Eugeo. Definitely I was splitting my was written for like Barcody saving Eugeo and like the team of like Kirito, Eugeo and Barcody heading over to like the dark surface to like save like the affected Alice like doing scenario that I'm so, like during this time like I'm like doing I was just earlier recovering and with like the help of like the other just so doing that like other uh, forces within like different of the land I'm believing that by seeking their help and basically through their mercy like I'm doing Quinla would be recovering back and once but still once like Quinla still won't be having like a change in her mindset that even through their help and mercy once like Quinla would be recovering back help like I'm back Quinla basically uh, managing to like really like absorb back her lost arms as well. And then like I'm going to end up once again back to her villainous itself. It's like series scenarios that I'm doing. And I'm leaning more towards okay that like by the time like Linda would be like thinking of like getting a revenge on like Kirito and others. Like I'm living like by the like Linda would be when I'm fully aware that like Kirito and others would have gone through like the lot of it, like the scenario that like Linda at that point like would be like absolutely frustrated and would be like afraid to like see to get that absolute revenge on like Kirito that I'm looking at India by then that would be creating like a huge massive army of like superior version of like sword columns and everything and has like India would be getting ready to like launch up like attack on like the dark army. Was bring like maybe at that point would be when like Kayaba would be like showing up as like to our stage here and would be taking control of like Greenland's mind. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at. And from that point on Kayaba controlling Greenland. It's like the eventual possible scenario that I'm sitting on the screen. Lemon Crimson right now as for like neither of Kirito so being like metal and that way it's being possible like to bring down Greenland like I'm bring like as to what might have happened would be like since like Eugeo had basically while Kirito himself, while he had turned into soul like basically things like Kirito had basically access like the creative module of like international tool like the creative module of like the original and like might have been what might have happened depending on the premise. So like that way like Yujo might have transferred like the magic like sacred spells like the high level sacred spells and magical powers of uh like this of like original and through like the creative module of like original and Yujo might have that way used it to like transform himself to a sword while coupling with like the magical powers of like Harden left like might have been what might have happened back then. So minimum premise. So like while Kirito was like struggling against like doing that like while Yujo had like helped Kirito out and had given Kirito that changed like the blow of hope into this red. So like at that point what Yujo might have done might have been like Yujo might have been absolutely certain that basically like simply like metal can't affect like doing that like like definitely wow. And since like Kirito sword definitely might have been definitely metalist back then. So remember to like I'm thinking like what Yuzo might have actually done might have been like Yuzo might have like by like touching Kirito's arms like like Yuzo and like touching like the Gloro sword as well, like the broken Gloro sword as well, like I'm thinking what Yuzo might have done might have been like all that like magical through like that deity module of like Origin and like all that match and like with that like the combined magical powers of like Cardinal as well, which might have uh, flowed through Yujo and made it possible for Yujo to like transform himself into that so like transform like the entire Yujo into like the soul like company, you know, like Yujo was on like the verge of that like that might have been like the remaining bit of like that very same combined magical powers of both Cardinal as well as Alice and looks like Yujo might have put into like lore of sword and that way like using magic like might have been how that Yujo might have converted like the lore of sword into that red sword of like magic might have been what might have actually happened like the possibility that happened. So like that way like I'm thinking like while holding on to that magical sword like Yujo might have like while creating that turning that lore of sword into like this magical red sword like Yujo might have also done it in such a way that basically while Kirito will be holding on as long as like Kirito maintains contact with the flag that magical red sword like the magic would be like flowing through like Kirito's body and would be like connecting to Kirito's like metallic sword as well. Might have been what might have happened. That way like I'm looking like due to like the power of like the magical red sword like I'm looking like the while fighting off against like doing that like the metallic sword of like Kirito as well might have had that very same magic from like the red sword flowing through like the metallic sword as well, right? Fighting off against like doing that. Might have been what might have happened certainly not the and this might have been like the sword is for like Kirito Kirito white striking Quinela with this like metallic sword and basically forms like Quinela to like this like basically that right from like that force right from Kirito's like metallic sword like affecting Quinela might have been solely due to like the spreading magical effect of from like the red sword that might have spread through like the metallic sword of Kirito might have been what might have happened. This might have been like sole reason for like Kirito it being possible for like cryptos to be able to like bring down and defeat Quinila might have been what might have actually happened, certainly might have been able. So like I'm thinking like it might have been like the combined help from like the creative module of like the original Alice as well as like the help from like Cardinal, which was like contained within like Eugeo, which like through then was through like Eugeo's help was like might have been transferred, might have been gotten that like Saint Magic might have been transferred to like Kirito, which might have been then through Kirito, might have been made it possible to bring down Quinla, might have been what might have actually happened. Like it's definitely might have been so like the movie friends right now as for like Quinla getting defeated to like the point of not being able to like kill herself. Like I'm looking right now, Quinla definitely won't be like giving up to get only like the mindset to like fighting until like the very end of the ending of the syllabus. Because like I'm doing Quinla would be having that absolute obsession with like power and like with, holding that absolute position of like being that absolute ruler that basically but right now like the situation being like Quinla being faced with that absolute reality of like Quinla losing all that power like I'm thinking like Quinla right now would be of like trying to go into like the mindset of like basically since like Quinla can't be like the ruler absolutely Quinla would be right now attempting to like take everyone out of like Quinla as like Quinla right now about to die. Depending on the print. So like I'm thinking right now that to be like the scenario and that I'm discussing right now for like Quinela with like the remaining power and energies and like magical power within like Quinela and within like Quinela right now totally like about to launch like a self-destruct kind of like an ultimate attack which like I'm like Quinela will be attempting at like before next the entirety of like either like the entirety of the world of the world or like Quinela will be trying to like destroy like that power that is different attack like Unprofitable that might be having like the power to like destroy like the entirety of the exchange of the ring. It will be one of these two possibilities that Unprofitable so like or as that Unprofitable as for like the levels of powers of like that self attack which Unprofitable right now Queen will be most likely about to use it's certainly well planned. So like I'm doing that attack like I'm doing like there will be absolutely nothing that Silver will be able to get to like stop that ultimate destruction kind of like an attack of like that self-destruction kind of like an attack which I'm doing right now feel that would be about to be set with scenario that I'm doing. So like I'm looking at that point like it will be like only feeling as like it there's like absolutely nothing that it will be able to like stop it because like I'm looking at while the scenario to be like I'm looking to in like while launching that like self-destruction kind of like an attack like I'm doing it trying to like stop doing that. But like I'm doing it so won't be able to like even get close to like doing that because like I'm looking there being like some sort of like a barrier like thing while like between that would be like building up that self-destruction kind of like an attack to the new reason. It's not being possible for like skip to like break through and basically to like stop doing that that's the scenario that I'm doing and as like that self-destruction attack will be like almost fully complete and like as like that would be realistically nothing effective so and like as Quinela would be only as good as something that like she will be like uh destroying like the entire piece of that the conserver the controller or like the inventory like at that very last second as like the instance attack will be about to unleash and at that very last second when even Kirito will be like looking all of the hope that at that very last second when I'm open but body will be showing up and but body at that point will be like most likely using his like secret weapon control hub uh and basically such a thing like the following be using like true powers of time manipulation powers to like basically either pause time like the possible scenario that I'm doing, but probably that way that maybe pause in time and like but probably will be only be able to like pause time for like a certain limit. So like maybe for like 10 seconds or like the second scenario that I'm looking for that 10 seconds will be like the only time kill will be having. So like I'm looking simple like for that 10 seconds like that when attack would be in like a pause like state without it growing anymore like after like that way like Kirito at that point within that 10 seconds like having that task to like basically to destroy like that and to take out like Quinela before that 10 seconds is over. It's like the scenario that I'm doing that way like within that 10 seconds like it's totally like charging up and basically running towards like charging towards like that Quinela and like delivering that ultimate final so like which I'm bring right now might be like taking out Quinela like permanently taking out Quinela and taking Quinela's life is also like a possibility that I'm looking bring up right now and never friends. And that way, like, I get to saving like the entire of the thing or like the entire of the close to go about from like to subscription of like doing that. With like the help of like but sorry, it's like getting into focus scenario that about becoming right now no friends. So like the new one friends right now is for like both doing that as well as like so we can definitely would be like surviving through that of like thing is like the scenario that I was doing. And one thing like I'm like Quinela would be like once again making deciding to like make everything as like lower server and lower server and like things like the scenario that I'm doing. And I'm definitely thinking that definitely as for like until we make it again in your world, like I'm different company by your world, like Quinla might not only been talking about like the darker rates that remember the because like I'm still thinking remember the in that like from Quinla's point of view, Quinla will be only being able to have that fight that would be like affecting everyone and basically in the name of like justice and everything, like in the name of saving like the human suffering from like the darker free, like basically in actuality like Quinta would be the only thing that in actuality kids shows it only the spice and by like the queen, like the ruler of like the darker free to like destroy and bring down Quinta and then for like the queen of like the ruler of the darker free to like also take over and rule like the human suffering as well. Be along the line that Quinta would be only believing me to like the person until like Quinta right now yes, especially member framework. So definitely the different like definitely there might have at least existed like recently just now there might have at least existed like a secret deal between like Quinla as well as like the ruler like the queen of like the last state. it should be like, and I'm specifically my preparation that like queen role of the it would be not only Alice's like mother, but like I'm looking like that queen of role of the would be also might have been also like doing like childhood private or like friend as well. Back in the system, also the claim of the so like as part of like the secret deal between like Quinela and that queen ruler of the Raspberry might be like symbolism for like the minions from like the Raspberry alone being able to like totally easily and casually being able to like fly all the way up to like the very top areas of like center cathedral, like that limitations, like that barrier being left open to be like a conscious decision by Gwenda as part of like the secret screen that deal that Gwenda might have struck with like the twin ruler of like the Darker Way. It's definitely my range. And that's part of like the deal, like the handing over of like Alice as well. And she might be like that actual deal is definitely my range. And in exchange, like Gwenda might have been offered with like some sort of like an offer that Quinella might have not been able to like refuse by like the twin role of Eugeo. We might be like that representations that anyone frames. So like Quinella, so like I'm on like Kirito showing up and basically that Quinella might have slowly felt that basically get those like the spikes sent by like the twin ruler of like the Dark Tree and like the betrayal of like twin ruler of like the Dark Tree on screen that might be what will be right now happening through kids. So might be also what like twin that would be totally still in like the fucking just definitely memory but so Kirito, twin that would be right now seeing Kirito as like look spike sent from like the Dark Tree. So like right now like during like twin that escape until we meet again in your world. Like by that, like Linda would be totally, like might be totally talking about like basically meaning about like basically Linda. Like the next time Linda would be making her return, it would be to like only set event on Kirito, not only on Kirito but also on like the twin roller of like the Saturday, and that would be most likely what would be like would was like unrevealed through that dialogue of like Linda, which which was like totally unrevealed that what like Quinella had said like basically which was unrevealed would be like the name of like the queen of like the Dark Surface. So definitely my preferred image. So like it would be like due to that what Quinella would be believing that absolute betrayal by like the queen of like queen ruler of like the Dark Reign on Quinella as through by sending Kirito to bring down Quinella. Like basically Quinella right now as she's like making her escape will be having that absolute threat that will start like experience not only on Kirito and get revenge and wipe out and eliminate not only Kirito but also like the twin ruler of like the other as well. And then the Quinella will be like as Quinella right now escaping like so that eventual return of like Quinella would be totally planning on getting revenge by eliminating both Kirito as well twin ruler of like the Dark Place as well as then and then for like doing that to like not only like through that return like doing that to like not only like roles like the uh be that absolute role of just like the cinematography alone but also to like role or like the dark way as well and that way should be that absolute role of like the entire speaking of like the world of like underworld should be like doing that like intent with which like Glinda that goal that Glinda would have right now set up as like Glinda right now making her escape. It's definitely my secondary answer. So like I'm definitely eventually in like that's when later I'm definitely putting like a re-entrance of like Glinda, like a reappearance of like Glinda. I'm slowly making her return would be within like the after three. Like the next time Glinda will be making her return and definitely her return like definitely it would be within like the after three. It's definitely not when Kirito and like the others will be like least expecting doing that. It will be in such a scenario while Chucho and others will be within like the data and comes in within like the data and it will be under the control of a situation where like Chucho and others will be least expecting doing that. It will be in such a scenario that like Quinella will be making her return within like the data and at that point Quinella would while making Quinella return Quinella would be when fully prepared for like basically to bring down Kirito as well as like the wing roller of like the so like I'm by then like Queen that will be like totally training by herself in secret like I'm doing like Queen that would be like training and like creating like a whole lot of like stone columns as well like the scenario that I'm doing. So like I'm doing like Queen that totally like through this current portal like the shape like I'm getting like Queen would be that through this portal would be Queen would be that reappearing somewhere deep within like the human or like would be secretly. reoccurring somewhere deep within like the data breach would be like the scenario that and from there like window would be like would Quinela's plan would be to like stated and to like stealthily train and get stronger until like Quinela and to create like Quinela's own army or like a new set of like soldiers would be like Quinela's plan somehow create that ultimate if somehow have herself like train and get superiorly far superiorly stronger and for her to like even build an extremely powerful army as well and then for her to like really to launch her like attack on like the Dark Week and basically to like basically so like since like you never we're only expecting that like since like you never we're only within that case to from like the Dark Week that you end up that way we're only expecting that way to like basically launch that attack on like the Dark Week and wipe out like the entire with the Dark Week and as well as like Kitso as well as like the Finger of like the Dark Week and that way take over and the Dark Week as well will be like what so that will be attempting in like the recently that's like living scenarios that are covering and everything. So things that were kind of famous and the covering like sort of in a cell but in the surviving and almost like Quinella, but of something like once like Quinella would be like upper Quinella escape like once like Quinella would be reappearing at like some remote location within like the Himatari or like within the data remote like the updating more possibility of like Quinella like maybe so her escape like reappearing in like some remote location in the data and they are like I'm saying like it would be like production that would be like helping Quinella recover and the other connected Quinella even basically being able to like restore back her arms and all of that would be through like the help of sort of this like saving this scenario that I'm really going to on the like really pretty understand right now it's for like crypto not being regardless of how much like crypto will be like trying to like save and feel you go like I'm definitely crypto not succeeding in that like the scenario that I'm playing crypto will be like at that point losing all hope and I was in like crypto will be like totally extremely frustrated, but like I'm losing to be at that point that like the totally unexpected entry of like what body will be happening. It's like the scenario that I'm living in. Typically, my situation right now that happens like but body would be like reversing back time using its like actual true time manipulation powers like but body like reversing back time and but body managing to like save the life of like Eugeo and but body that way and but uses that very same power like but body also would be succeeding in like restoring back Kirito's like lost as well. Like the scenario that I was doing by like reversing back Kirito's time as well. Like but body would be like succeeding in like Kirito the like that way getting back to like lost as well. Like the scenario that I'm doing. Yet like I'm doing but by the time but body will be doing both of that like I'm doing but body's like a limit would be reached and I'm doing that way like body them not being able to like say neither Charlotte nor Cardinal to like the scenario that I'm doing right. So like I'm wondering still thinking about the principle that like it will be during this time that I'm doing like the whole abduction of like Alice by applying mania from like the doctor brain according to my position would be happening. And I'm wondering like even though I'm wondering like the death of like Cardinal I'm wondering definitely would be last for a long time it will be permanent. I'm looking like that are cardinal I'm looking eventually like the very distant use of like crypto being able to like save and bring back cardinal not only cardinal but also sharp as well like the scenario that I'm looking. But like I'm looking it would be once like crypto would have completed like the game succeeded goals and completed like fully solved everything within like the virtual world of underworld completed like the game of like virtual world of Underworld. Just fully completed like the game of like, the virtual world of Underworld and once like played that way, would be returning back to like the real human world outside of like the virtual world of Underworld. Like once Kirito will be returning back to like, the real human world, like at that point of my level, like Kirito, exactly like how exactly like Cardinal like Yui as well was like an AI system like and which like Kirito had saved in like Kirito had lost and Kirito and Asuna had lost and Kirito had saved. Like I'm looking like through a similar manner, like I'm looking like Kirito totally recoding or like reprogramming and bringing back and saving Charlotte as well as like Charlotte. Like this another that I'm doing. But like unlike in like use case, like I'm looking like Kirito not deciding to like bring Cardinal. Exactly like how Yui in like the person can actually interact with like Kirito as well as like Asuna, even in like the real world, like I'm looking like that not being like the case for like Charlotte as well as like Cardinal is like the scenario that I'm doing that like Kirito bit only creating it as like feeling along the lines as like basically like the virtual world of Underworld is like the only home of like Cardinal as well as like Charlotte. So like I'm doing that Kirito only by the time Kirito would be like saving like the entire episode to one month world, and heading coming back to like the real human world, like understand like Kirito doing all that recording and reprogramming and like with the things that they're bringing back both like Charlotte and as well as like Cardinal back to like the human stuff back to like the virtual world of underworld like the scenario that I'm discovering. And at that point, like I'm finally Cardinal will be free from like the library and like Cardinal will be able to like be among like and live among like the people of like the library and all that like along and with like Charlotte will be only alongside like Cardinal and that and that like the scenario that I'm living and that way like I'm going like after like saving like the world of underworld like I'm living still eventually in the constitution like Kirito it's even after like the whole team online up and like even after that up keep your having like along with his friends like basically having run back to like Ultimate mode like the world of Ultimate mode like I'm just like in a strict similar manner like I'm just like once like after like get turn back to like the real human world like I'm like eventually in like the city that I'm like get along with like Alice as well like returning back like basically paying a visit to like all of the Kirito's friends like Alice, Eugeo, and like Cartel and Charlotte and all stuff. It's like it's in like the of like that eventual scenario that I'm explaining. So Kirito at that point would be like entering into like that virtual world of world along with like Asuna and during that point of like the scenario that I'm explaining. And my pyramid. And either Kirito that way introducing Asuna to like war or like I'm thinking that maybe Asuna eventually ending up being a part of like that final war between like the dark country and like the human race. Jungle preferring to like initially happen. Maybe Asuna being a part of that war eventually like the stage of like Asuna would be entering into like the virtual world of wonderful maybe as like God and was like that is like the one possible scenario that I was like or like I was going like that not happening and like once like it's resolving everything in like local one month or like then upon that like under it so paying a visit to like all of them within like so they were comfortable by introducing Asuna to like all of them is like another possible scenario that I was going to say. Like the thing about the right now that is recently like you don't by taking like the option analysis like PhD module within like I'm covering the for like typical scenario that is sitting out for like the and it's that alive like the data night algorithm that still remember the reason will be like the software created would be like getting affected by the blind minion and will be taken to that after and they are like like eventually and they are like while and will be trapped within the dark at that point will be when like Amazon like and will be like shockingly usually gradually finding out about like basically answers proof patterns that's actually not being that answer pattern from like as father from like the town of the lip like and Selka like not being action the actual so father and sister of like Alice but like the proof actual patterns of like Alice being from like the darker way like the dark knight as well as like the queen ruler of like the darker way being like Alice actual and to certainly my opinion, that shocking realization happening to like the Indian Arab while she would be abducted and trapped within like the other place like in the scenario that I was in. So like I'm going like once like finally go like the variant once like a consumer information and the different once like it would be like saying like the what's the word of underworld and the once like finally the war between like the dark and the human society finally ending and everything will be sold like at that point like I'm looking to believe Kirito up like leaving like the virtual world of like underworld like and returning back to like the human world like I'm definitely Kirito recoding and reprogramming and that way bringing back like like Alice as well as Eugeo back alive into like the virtual world of underworld is like the scenario that happens. So like I'm when Kirito will bring back Alice it would be like Alice with like the original memories of like Alice. So like I'm doing Kirito creating like the PAT model or create Kirito like the virtual world into like again like I'm doing Kirito somehow through the data being able to like access that original PAT model of like Alice and basically that way like I'm doing like Kirito even bringing back Eugeo as well as Alice into like the town of Roll it with like them having all of their memories and I'm going like definitely the Kirito would be also and they would be also having like the memories of Kirito as well at that point is like scenario that I'm sort of Kirito and at that point I'm sort of like once like the scenario where like Kirito as well as like Alice would be like getting spawned that way into the town of Roll it and at that point like they would be shocked and I'm sort of like At that point, like they will be looking around for like Kirito. While like the internet at this time during this time would be like after like the entirety of like the war and everything would be over, like I'm looking like the internet as well would be like right there like scenario that I'm looking. So like I'm looking like before leaving Kirito would be like telling like some of the different scenario to be like for telling like the internet Alice that basically that is going to bring back like the Eugeo as well as like Alice, like the Alice who lives in like the town of like Roller as well back. You know that so like I'm during that time like the night Alice would be in like town of Roller while like Yuzo and Alice would be brought back like the scenario that I'm looking and Alice like the night Alice would be bringing them making them up to date and bringing them aware of like everything that had happened and like that is what Kito that had brought you back and everything is like the scenario that I'm looking. So then I'm looking like definitely the industry night and then I'm looking like crypto would be like entering into the rector to work on the world. But along with like Astronaut, like the scenario that I'm doing it, crypto possibly introducing Astronaut to like all of them, and basically crypto you do and that is like one game like having fun together and all that's like the scenario that I'm doing, and like by the like I'm looking like the final decision that like the industry night and that way like I'm looking the being finally the being like two analysis in like four to one of controllers like the scenario that I'm so like I'm looking like as for like the internet has like I'm just like definitely bonding with like self as well as like the father of like the original ancestor. Like the scenario that I'm looking. Yes, like I'm looking like still by then like by the time like the entire war and everything will be over, like I'm looking like the internet has would have bonded way more with like the original parents, like basically like the Dark Knight as well as like the King Roller of like the after like the Angel scenario that I'm that like I'm looking like even though Alice will be like so I'm looking like Alice will be after like spending like only a few days in like the town of Holland like definitely Alice will be telling goodbye to like all them or like by telling them that like she will like return whenever people like meeting all of them and basically with that like I'm like the internet had is like finding returning back to like the South of to like live with like have actual co-parents like basically the Dark Knight as well as like the student role of like the Dark Knight like the scenario that I was going to bring and that's very much like the middle students are right now as for like even the thing like those will go to fund about like through like the computer like kids of hearing like the fun sound like from like the real world like the middle very much as for like what would be right now happening in like the percent of the location right now will be totally Kayaba's like betrayal of like Chico and Kayaba's like ambush attack on like Chico and team to for like Kayaba to like only take over like the world of Underworld and to for Kayaba to like only hopefully that totally gets it like a good revenge on that Kirito. Good of the Kaiba's plan right now. So none of the things for like nothing so definitely my definitely be in a part of like the select plan of like ultimate betrayal plan of like Kaiba to get revenge on Kirito. Definitely to spend their time to know the direct. So like next Rinko might have definitely be in a trap set for Asuna as well. To like basically to trap Asuna into like into the ocean circle location by the time Kaiba should be making his like betrayal and taking over of like the entire capital circle location. That way to that possibly make both Kirito as well as Asuna suffer for like basically like destroying Kaiba's ego and like defeating Kaiba back in the Discord account and definitely my betrayal. So like I was definitely as for like earlier like Asuna from the ocean circle location even like I think like noticing like some sort of like a ship at like a distance while I think like Rinko was like I'm definitely Rinko might have been well and fully aware even at that point that basically it was like according to like Kaiba's plan those ships might have been definitely ships according to like Kaiba's orders like showing up to like the ocean circle location on their way to like the ocean circle location to like take over like the entirety of the ocean circle location and like to be all part of like Kaiba's connection plan, like everything that like Kaiba might have made some sort of like an offer to all those like forces like which like they might have not been able to like refuse to remember them. So because of like Kaiba's brilliance and everything like I'm saying Kaiba might have offered them something that like this like technology that like it was trying to like, create like I'm looking at Kaiba might have offered it to like another uh, organization to like about that I'm considering it might have been the plane they are ships that will be like right now approaching that like Asuna might have seen at a distance like from like those in the locations that you know so like things will be totally going according to like like realistic plan to please get the to take that grudge and that would prevent on the Kirito and as soon as the female with members. So definitely right now it's also looking like copy the definitely right now things like Kirito it's like hearing like the sounds of weapons from like those in the location from within like within like towards the world of the world that may have decision that need to be like those forces allied to like like totally uh, taking over that and taking control of like what the location like the scenario that I'm doing. So like I'm still I'm looking like won't be taking the life of like neither Kikoka nor like the remaining team members of like Kikoka, but like I'm looking like Kayaba will be keeping like Kikoka as well as like the other guys from Tuna and I'm looking like it will be at that point that like Asuna will be getting like the shocking reveal, not only about like Kaiba's presence there, like but also about like Ringo as well being still to represent as well, like still being part of like Kaiba, still working for Kaiba. Like Asuna getting that shocking reveal is like the scenario that I'm looking, and then I'm looking for like Liam Sicily taking like a possibility of unbreaking the possibility of like Kaiba only as part of like Kaiba's like ultimate plan to get that ultimate revenge on like Kirito. It wouldn't just be for Kirito, but like Kaiba would be probably determined to like it. Even though Kirito would be like the main target, like Kaiba would also would be wanting just really wanting to like get back like ego by making like both Kirito as well as like Asuna by getting revenge on both Kirito as well as Asuna. So like I'm definitely for like Kaiba to like force Asuna as well to like end into like the world of control, especially when so like they are full definitely be maybe in like a Kaiba's own like Kaiba might have secretly fit like two more like medicable like things to like really to enter into like the virtual world of Unfold. Two more machines to like enter into it, the virtual world of Unfold, like the scenario that I'm doing. So like which like about this like neither kickoff nor any of that it was because team would be even aware of the new notifications. So it will be only a Ringo as well as Kaiba would be like aware of the new notifications. So like in that way, like I'm looking like Kaiba totally forcing Asuna to like enter into like the virtual world of Underworld by threatening also by threatening Asuna with like taking Kirito's life if Asuna doesn't do exactly according to what Kaiba, which is like the scenario that I'm doing. That way like for Kaiba forcing Asuna into like entering into like the virtual world of Underworld. That way like Asuna entering into like the virtual world of Underworld is like the scenario without maturity itself is like the scenario that I'm doing. And then like I'm doing straight away like I'm talking like the takeover happening in like ocean double of Vietnam, also something like straight after like sending probably sending up nine to like towards the world on the world. I am definitely everything would be like straight away taking like the super account of like God of Acacia and would be like entering straight away entering into like the virtual world of underworld into like the human tree as like pretending to be like the God of Acacia. It's like the scenario that I was doing. But that absolute intent using that all that like superior uh, power that would be like by default would be percent for like the profile of like super account of like Dora state like to use all that power to within like the virtual world of underworld to like cause that absolute suffering to like both Kircho and Asuna. But only attending that like that literally attending that reflecting the scenario that I'm going to bring on so like I'm thinking like Asuna totally like initially like struggling to like make it towards like get towards like the scenario that I'm looking so depending the scenario to be like by Asuna will be forced into entering into like the virtual world of control by Kaiba like I'm looking like a scenario and at that point I was like Asuna would be most likely growing up somewhere in like pretty much phase, like the scenario that I'm looking at. That's would be having absolutely no clue at all as like where exactly kid would be at that point. And so now would be like desperately run through like the human trying to like find Kirito. And I'm like definitely like that desperate search for like Asuna to like find Kirito. Like I'm just like definitely would be like not a short one, would be like scenario that I'm doing. But doing like a parallel or like a similarity to happenings, potentially happening to that how Kirito was desperately trying to like find Asuna back in like Alpine Online, like I'm doing like Asuna had her own adventure within like the human tree and Asuna maybe making her own friends within like the human tree along her way during her fight just to like find Kirito. So also like even the topic scenario that I'm doing. So yeah, like I'm doing like Asuna would be having her own journey within like the human tree until like eventually Asuna will be finding out about like Kirito. By then definitely will be in like the last page by then definitely not because of like definitely and Liam would be like getting affected by like the flying minions and that usually ending up like Kirito and right now we're going to be Kirito and Barcoli that would be like flying off to like the doctor people like say that like the scenario that I'm looking for. During this time like I'm like Asuna would be like only making her own journey within like the industry trying to find Kirito and eventually Asuna finding out on someone that basically about like Kirito being in like the doctor field, like the scenario that I'm using. Then Asuna's journey along with like definitely Suna then would be making friends that Suna along with her friends like only journeying into like the doctor field and basically that way like I'm looking that from like the doctor eventually at some point like I'm looking while Tito would be in like a tough situation like in a tough spot like at that point I'm looking like that absolute unexpected entrance of like Asuna happening that like Asuna would be like be saving Tito from like some sort of like a tough spot like the scenario that I'm looking and that being that absolute shock for like Tito shock and that absolute feeling of that joy would be definitely joy and relief would be within kids at that point on seeing Asuna after like such a long time. Like in the scenario that I'm really playing up definitely I'm right now is for like the fundamental machine like for those like Kaiwa definitely would be desperate to like get that up though I mentioned on like for get to end up so like in order for Kaiwa to in order for that to be possible for Kaiwa might have only betrayed like the and might have only like offered like basically to like sell like the perfect artificial flux light of like Alice to a different organizations, definitely not the rendition. So that might be like definitely that shift that Alice that Asuna had seen from the since like with this current takeover and everything happening, like I'm looking like it will be definitely according to like Kaiba's offer to that organization of like Kaiba handing them over like the perfect like artificial flux light that according to them what they would be doing would be like the only first artificial flux light will for mixed abilities and everything depending on the benefits. So like the most suitable and most stable artificial flux light for them would be that would be like that of ads. So like I'm looking like to in exchange for like that perfect artificial flux light and the eventual weapons that like that organization would be able to like, create through like that like software just like that and it's like I'm looking definitely in exchange for that like I'm looking like the current takeover in like the portion of the location would be like happening it's definitely not the so like to definitely be like Ringo and Kaba would be totally uh, still eventually the person would be totally be contained and still out totally betrayed people out do what be happening right now it's definitely not the so like I'm looking like right now I'm looking for like scenario to be like definitely in order for like these organizations to like basically get hold of like the perfect opportunity pledge of like Alice like basically uh Alice might have to like stay in like the human territory in order for like these organizations to be even through like the access of like the world of underworld still like they would be only having access to like humans and like the artificial like only having access to like data representation like taking up the alone is definitely not the premise. So like I'm just like if Kirito and Alice like makes it to like the data before this while before like this organization is like currently taking over like the location like tries to like act with like data just like of Alice and tries to like possibly take away like data just like Alice like before that like I'm doing the task for like Kirito right now would be to like basically make it to the make it to like the data free depending on where within like the data free like definitely on entering like the data free like these organization won't be able to like access like any human flux like that or like any flux at all that have like entered into like the data free like there will be absolutely no access to like anything at all at like the data free within like the data free for like the people who on like the real human world who even has access to like the game of like the world of underworld is definitely mandatory. So like I'm looking like like definitely I'm looking like after like the initial create even while like I'm looking like it will be like even during like the inception of like the creation of the world of underworld it will be like on like the human play alone like that all the purpose and everything might have been given. It's definitely mandatory. So like I'm looking like as for like the after tree during like the initial creation itself, like the data tree might have been like something that might have been like totally without building access, without building any sort of access at all to like the data tree. Like I'm looking might have been a scenario where like a bunch of like random like artificial flux types of like orcs and goblins might have just been like few a bunch of like offline world which might have just randomly been created within like the data tree. Other than that, like absolutely no access to like the data tree might have been created during like even all the way back from like the inception of like the creation of the and that is the virtual world of the new interface. So like even back then like companies might have been only like the interface alone like then that is the focus of like the creation of like and like the modification and everything of like those learn from the world might have been focused on the new creation. So like I'm bringing this might be the reason for like understand like there won't be like no access not even to like yoga or to like anyone who uses like the system of like the which have like the game of like what the world control will have like any sort of access to like the data set the minimum preemption. The minimum preemption right now is like Kiboka right now telling Kirito to like to take Alice and go to like the world and like that would be like what like the data free would be called from like Kiboka's point of view that because my that word and alpha would be actually like the data free stuff in the language. So like I'm looking at one like the scenario that I'm certainly putting right now is for like Kirito totally like quickly getting and I'm looking right now it's like on hearing what that words of people like I'm doing this is it and that's what all that like I'm looking but like right then it's like I'm doing like it's only by sheer coincidence and by sheer lack of spiritual like I'm looking like right then it's like the body I'm looking will be going up to like the very top floor of like others and straight away like it's telling the body that like he has absolutely no time to like explain anything and basically he's telling he would be like, okay, so we straight away telling the police like follow for this wagon and we need to take them to like the other creature. Like that way, the police straight away whistling out with his wagon and the police dragon showing up and Kirito totally enormous like the police like Kirito and is getting on top of like the dragon, the police wagon and then straight away flying off to like the dark place. So like considering while they will be flying off to like the dark place, uh, uh, like this like would take over with, by like the betrayal of Carol. So we was like the betrayal of Carol, like that takeover in like those industrial locations, they were getting more and more. So like I'm saying by the time like the people from like the organization would be like finally getting access to like the systems and basically would be trying to like steal away and take away, totally take away like Alice like after this is like right as they will be about to like so that like I'm saying like Alice will be like along with like a kid so but body Alice would be like entering into like the darker space and crossing like the boundaries and entering into like the darker space like the scenario that I'm so like right they would be about to button to like steal away like and like after the first like and like at that very last second like I'm like right before they would be pressing the button on the keyboard like I'm doing that and from the crossing it to the other space like the scenario that I'm looking that way then losing that access is like the scenario that I'm so like I'm looking them totally getting the people from like the host from the government getting hugely angry with like Kaiba at that point. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. So like at that point that was like Kaiba only giving them the assurance that basically Kaiba himself will be like entering into like the virtual world of underworld and bringing Alice back to like the kingdom of faith for them to like steal away after and it was like after the like it's like the scenario that I'm doing. And Kaiba would be only seeing that as like the like basically definitely Kaiba would be only intended to like take to enter into like the sexual world of underworld to get revenge on like Kirito and Asuna. And basically to force Asuna to like as well to like enter into the world of underworld and to like take out Kaiba's like and revenge on both Kirito and Asuna. Kaiba might have like Kaiba even making this offer to like this organization it might have been something that might have happened and to do all this like Kaiba was very intent to like get revenge on Kirito and Asuna. So like I'm Kaiba straight away that entering into like the virtual world of underworld into like the human interface as like God state using the super account of God spaces like the scenarios that I'm doing and then that kind of totally like starting to like build his own army within like the human interface to like basically to launch that ultimate war again and definitely all the humans will be like straight away like straight away seeing kind of that actual God space and I'm like definitely like Kaiba would be like making them all like basically straight away they will all listening to the Kaiba and like Kaiba would be like using all that special powers of like the special powers of extra button of for example and Kaiba raising a whole army of maybe like even superiorly strong sword golems or like maybe some sort of like a different mechanical kind of like an army. It's like scenario that maybe using all the humans or like major of the like the people and like simply Kaiba launching that ultimate war against like the Dark League in that basically doing that was like to like get kind of revenge on like Kirito and Asuna. and for Kayaba to like also forcefully bring affect like Alice and basically bring Alice back to like the human country so that like Kayaba could make this like uh side of like the day to like that organization by allowing them that way by bringing that Sona to like the history and that way make in giving that organization in like that organization like getting access to that is but like of like Alice like for them to like that way steal away possibly steal away and take away and like that is but like so like to achieve this like I'm looking like about only attending and I'm looking that will be how like I'm looking like doing till work between like the right and like the after three would be happening with like minimum service. So like I'm doing right now for like most likely maybe like Kayaba totally like since like I'm doing Kayaba would be totally that we're planning on like launching creating a phone army and like launching that ultimate war against like the after and getting just like revenge on Kirito and another at that point I'm looking maybe like Kayaba totally that forcing us so much to like enter into like the uh, enter into like those world of underwater and Kaiba will be also forcing from before like entering Kaiba will be telling Asuna to like uh, the moment Asuna will be entering into like those world control for like Asuna to like go up to like the last tree. That will be the order that Kaiba will be telling Asuna and if Asuna doesn't listen, like Kaiba will be taking it was like will be around the lines of like a correct that Kaiba will be making. So like that way to like that will be also part of like Kaiba's villainous plan to like get revenge on like Asuna because like by the time Kaiba will be preparing his like army and launching that war against like the Dark Base for like Kaiba to have both Kirito as well as Asuna be present within like the Dark Base. So that like for Kaiba to like make the both stuff up within like the Dark Base will be like Kaiba's plan and so like I'm looking to like an area of scenarios that are positioned on the programming. So like the female answer right now is for like if you're right now seeing you know they totally due to like the power lines being cut and it was like plus like being affected by it's like being on the frame. Yeah, like I'm doing like right now even though Kirito seems like Asuna like a because they totally like, an extremely short temporal thing because like I'm doing right now it's like Kirito even though Kirito's flashlight and the thing will be only getting affected like still Kirito will be actively returning back into would still the plus side would be still reworking itself and basically you're turning back to like towards the development world right there right in front of like Alice well scenario that I'm looking that way like I'm seeing like at that point I'm looking definitely definitely Kaiba and especially with like Kikoka right now telling Asuna as well as telling Heiga to like basically take Asuna as well as like Rinko to some location with the next person. Definitely, I'm looking like even right now what Heiga Asuna as well as like Hikoka will be totally unaware of that. Definitely, according to my information, Rinko is definitely part of like the sport attack on like the ocean location and would be still allied to that time, but it's definitely not 300 ago definitely believing like regardless of like while Theta would be taking Asuna and Ringo to like this location, I'm believing definitely Ringo totally attacking Theta like the scenario that will be like huge shock not only to like Asuna at that point, it's like the scenario that I'm believing and at that point Ringo laughing her big laugh and everything is like the scenario that I'm referring and definitely right then I'm something like the flea kid work as well getting captured and basically like right then I'm doing like the enter by Kayaba happening like the scenario that I'm doing and then like I'm doing like Kayaba for me getting overconfident and basically like making a few speech of that basically out about like Kayaba how much like and how badly and how really about this entire time. I don't want to like get take out the that then get a revenge on like Asuna as well as Kirito and all that. But you know the rest. But like I'm just doing about that only at that point getting overconfident and basically making a long speech and wasting a lot of like time like the scenario that I'm doing. And this time would be like what the different would be only allowing Kirito to like basically be able to like be able to like Asuna to like the last of it in time to be able to like make it into like the rapper page in time to like the scenario that I'm putting. So like I'm doing definitely it will be definitely through like the help of like Perpoli dragon that I mean Perpoli and dragon that I was like Kirito and Asuna would be Kirito and Alice would be able to like make it in time into like the rapper page like the scenario that I was so like this world can altar like I'm doing would be getting remember the instance would be definitely like the border between like the human face and like the after face. So like the scenario that I'm doing. So like they are like I'm doing especially like I'm definitely putting like Sapori and like dragon taking Kirito and Alice into that world and Altar and then totally crossing like the last three inside. By the time like definitely I'm depending to be kind of more confidence as well will become definitely for like kind of more confidence definitely being due to like kind of no won't be like other even while I'm different kind of the like negative like will see like Asuna and all of them. Like I'm different kind of totally unaware of that because already having given this like missions to like Kirito to like only escape to like the dark stream which we would be the female dream is so like I'm doing and that to get to trying to do that while flying on top of like a dragon as well. Like these things like I'm putting Kaiba like such a scenario like such an attempt by Kikoka and like Kirito happening would be one thing that like that would have never crossed like Kaiba's mind at all. So like I'm looking from Kaiba's point of view, Kaiba would be all constantly think that Kirito would only trapped in like in the tree. And basically there will be absolutely nothing Kirito will be able to do to like stop Kaiba at this point. It will be along the line Kaiba will be totally all conflicting and Kaiba would totally think that basically straight away he will be able to like forcefully take away like Alice's like artificial birth life and basically would be able to like straight away transfer it to like that organization. Maybe the ambition that the Kaiba would be totally all conflicting that basically he will be able to like take all of his time getting his like sweet revenge on like what get to end up you know get on the line Kaiba will be all conflicting because like I'm certain right now it's with like this forces from like some organization like basically trying to take over like those in the location like I'm certain once like Kaiba would be the only thing that like once we would be like done this side of the and transferring like the purpose of it just like and like of definitely like definitely by then like definitely Kikoka as well as like Kiga would be in like a tied up state and it would be just like Asuna alone there. And the thing like I was it only planning that at that point like hope Asuna into like the virtual world of Underworld and then like definitely Kaiba would be able to like take the entirety of the like sweet time to like get like revenge on like Kirito at the sweet places. Will be along the line Kaiba will be or contemplating but like all this like plans of Kaiba will be totally backfiring solely due to like Shishoka right now itself like basically reacting in acting in time and really like giving the order to like shift or to like towards this board and other like things the scenario that of the game.